everybody, I'm Ole aka Chuc, one alongside Katie aka Peekaboo Bang, who's sitting up there. Back for another episode of Battlefield Podcast number 169, and this one is related to Battlefield, but not about Battlefield per se. We're going to be talking to Chris and Chuc from Squad. If you haven't heard of Squad yet, it's basically, we'll have them tell us what it is exactly, but it's related to Battlefield. It's related, trust us. Katie, are you excited?
Yes, and nervous.
Nervous?
Nervous. I'm always nervous before live ones.
We've never had... I don't know why you're so nervous. You're doing exactly the same thing that you do for all the podcasts. I have 2 strangers in my house. So...
Gonna kill him afterwards.
Yeah, I'm never turning the stream off just for evidence. What's going on. What we're going to do, people in the chat, we're going to be asking them some questions. We'll talk a little bit about Squad, and then we'll get you guys a chance in the chat to ask some questions. And then we're going to switch over to actually do some actual playing of Squad.
That's correct.
Yeah, cool. So, which will be cool. Katie's murdering the keyboard.
Sorry. Mechanical keyboards are superior.
Me too. I'm
all
about the mechanical keyboard.
You feel like you're working.
Their mechanical keyboards are great. They're horrible for making videos and stuff. But that's just the way it is. And I see that OBS decided to screw up my nice little capture of the chat. Instead, put all of us in there again, just like yesterday. Awesome. While I fix that, why don't you guys, Katie, why don't you take the lead and just have them tell us a little bit about what Squad is.
Well, thanks for that intro, Ola.
You're welcome.
Maybe you guys should tell us a little bit about what Squad is, what it's about.
Okay, Alastair?
Yeah, I guess to rip straight from our Steam Greenlight description. Squad is a multiplayer tactical team-based shooter, and I guess the biggest hallmarks of our game are team play, communication, and also really large maps with vehicles, and also base building built into the whole mix. Those familiar with the original Project Reality mod for Battlefield 2, Squad is going to be the spiritual successor to that original mod. Yeah, could you anything?
Yeah, no, I think that summarizes it. Very team play oriented, tactical first-person shooter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to make one comment. We're all using the same mic that's over here, the 3 of us. So if you need any one of us to speak up more or something, just let us know in the chat. Like, yell out that we're too quiet or something, okay? Go ahead, Katie. And I fixed the chat. Yay.
I don't know what I was going to say now because you interrupted me.
But that's the Battlefield connection, right? Is the Project Reality
that's the Battlefield connection. Yeah. And in many ways that both Project Reality and Squad do borrow the sort of large scale, many players on the server, the whole squad organization of your team, all that is definitely borrowed from Battlefield. But what we do as Squad within our game is place a much heavier emphasis on squad play, on relying on your team members, on your squad members to actually achieve your objectives rather than sort of the game facilitating a much more normal experience. So we want to really get away from that and refocus the sort of regular gameplay on the squad rather than the individual.
Right.
So, for those in the chat that don't know what you guys do, why don't you give them a little background on you individually, what you do for Squad, what your job title is, or how you contribute?
So, I can give you a quick background. I was thinking about the other day, I probably started modding, 20 some odd years ago with the first Doom. I remember making levels in the original Doom. That all led through like Delta Force, all this kind of stuff, modding. As soon as I could get a hands on an editor, that was what I went to from like 14 years old. But a lot of my map building, for me, it's environments and maps. So a lot of that started in Delta Force. Project Reality, I found immediately as I moved into Battlefield 2. I was living in Japan at the time, and PR was like the first time I played it, everybody was on mics, and I was just like, I made friends day one. I remember just being like, this is amazing. And then I realized that they had an editor that was quite robust. Oh, you guys can't hear me well? Yeah. Yeah, I had an editor in for BF2 that was just awesome. So I literally opened it up, and the first map I made was Kwai River, which became a PR staple for probably, I don't know, 6-7 years.
Which map was it?
Kwai River. That was the first map I ever made, and it basically became a staple for years, and then I went from there and joined the PR team. Left PR at one point, came back to Canada, started my own business, a couple businesses now. And since then, about 13, 14 months ago, a couple of us got together and decided to found this commercial version, just from the experience we had from PR. So I've been running the environment and also doing all the financials, basically the CFO up till now.
Yeah. In case people don't know, my online nickname is Chuc, and I guess I got my start in modding actually as a sprite artist. I did the original kit icons for Project Reality. That was basically the first step from moving away from the original Battlefield 2 look and into what PR has. And then from there, I moved into much more, I guess, a much more independent role in animation, where I began as a animator, just sort of tweaking the animations that were already in Project Reality. They're around like 0.75, and then by 0.8, it came to a point where I was actually redoing every single animation in the entire mod.
Wow.
And fortunately or unfortunately, no other animator actually made it onto the team. So I was pretty much the only animator for the 6 years that I was with at PR.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Geez, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. It is.
Poor thing.
Sorry. Yeah.
I said, "You poor thing. You're the only one."
It was fun, and it actually told me a lot of things about animation. And in fact, my day job actually is as a 2D animator. So, I do that during the day, and then when I come home and the weekends, it's nothing but squad work. Yeah, and for squad actually, I'm still carrying the torch, being the lead and only animator on squad, and on top of that, I also do things like task wrangling, project management, and also getting the art assets from the modeling stage all the way up to final implementation.
How big is your team, by the way?
We're looking at around 25.
Okay.
Yeah,
formally, I would say 20, and then there's some other people who are just kind of very smaller scale contributors.
Yeah, we have a lot of support staff actually. So military advisors,
right?
Testing personnel, marketing as a big one.
Yep.
And also just support staff that don't really deal directly with development, but they help us in getting a job done.
Yep.
I wanted to follow up on Project Reality real quick. What got you guys attracted to Project Reality as a mod in Battlefield 2 to begin with? I remember Battlefield 2 had so many great mods. What made Project Reality be the one that you guys enjoyed and wanted to focus on?
For me, it was the difference of not being able to lone wolf nearly as much. When I first got exposed to PR, like the first couple of times I played it, you immediately have to change your gameplay style. And this was probably for me, that was like point, I don't even know, like 0.2, 0.3. I joined PR, and you had to change your gameplay style absolutely immediately, and you had to work with your team. And that for me was way more compelling. It was way more thoughtful. It was way more slow paced. It wasn't nearly as solo spam. So that for me was PR. Once I got that, I was totally hooked. I probably worked 40 hours a week in Japan, and then played PR about 40 hours, and then modded it for about 40 hours a week as well. That's pretty much my life.
How many hours are there in a week?
That's what I'm telling you. It's like pretty much all I did.
I think the answer to that question is never enough.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah, pretty much all I did for a couple of years, for sure.
Yeah. What was the question?
What
Drew
attracted
PR.
you?
Yeah, pretty much the almost the exact same answer. Like I was really into mods, as in playing them. When I first started playing PR, it was I was sort of playing things like the firearms mod, specialists on the original Half-Life, and when the modding scene for Battlefield 2 sort of started creeping up, I was like, oh wow, cool, and then I tried a few mods. I think it was what was out when PR came out?
Point of Existence was a mod.
Yeah, PoE.
Right.
Yeah.
Forgotten
Hope 2 didn't really come out until like much later.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But PR was one of the first ones, and I'd never experienced anything like that before, where it was a reduced HUD for one. You couldn't tell how many bullets there were inside your magazine.
Yeah.
There was no crosshair. Right?
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, no crosshair. And the fact that for the first time ever, I really needed to actually use my microphone. Yeah,
That's a good point.
yeah.
Cool.
All right, so sort of following into that a bit, how is Squad similar or dissimilar to Project Reality? For those of the guys that have played Project Reality, what can they expect from Squad, sort of at a high level?
I can answer that in a couple different realms, I guess. Like globally, kind of our objective is to be very similar to PR. Again, PR is not a solid state thing. It's been like, what is it, 1.3 now?
Yeah.
And I can tell you right away that 0.6 and 1.0 were not the same game.
Yeah.
They were really different. So what we're really trying to capture is like a wide breadth of those experiences, bring all the good bits that we like, and build a kind of combined game. So I always say this internally is like, if we're 70%, 80% satisfying the vast majority of people, I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Right.
But you know what? Everybody's not going to be 100%, and we know that because there's so many different versions of this game that existed.
Yeah.
Essentially, the mod that you just like, it's impossible. It's virtually impossible.
I mean, I'm sure within the realm of PR, people have their own favorite versions that they played. Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of people say 0.5, a lot of people say 0.95, and
It's
then
quite funny.
yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think
Cool.
that works well.
But I guess on like a surface level, like for one, we are working with one of the most sort of up to date game engines out there, the Unreal 4 engine. So it means that we for one can actually rebuild our vision from scratch and put in systems that we wanted to have in the original PR mod from the very beginning. Things like Sway, for example. Like we couldn't do Sway at all in the original Battlefield 2 mod.
Right.
But now we can.
Yeah.
There's got to be a lot of new technology stuff that you can now take advantage of that you couldn't back then, right?
Tech, and also just having the freedom to develop these systems from scratch.
Right, or not, actually. Like, there's a lot of stuff that was actually we inherited from Battlefield 2 that we didn't want in PR, so now we don't have to go ahead with that, right?
Yeah.
So it's really hard when people ask us that question, because PR has been many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
You want to take the next one, Katie?
Come on, Katie.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you've already mentioned that Squad is based on large gameplay, and I mean 50 versus 50 is massive. That's huge. So it completely diminishes and flattens the size of just a 64-person player server. So what made you decide for those scale of teams and want that scale of a game going on?
I think it came through experimentation, actually. Like a lot of the people on the Squad team see the original Project Reality as being the prototype for what we have as a. Sorry, a lot of people see Project Reality as the as almost the game design plan for the Squad, and like the original PR, we spent almost 2 years experimenting with different player counts, with different squad
layouts, configurations,
maximum squad sizes, and we kind of hit a sweet spot with 100 players. We knew for years and years of playing on 64 player servers that 32 on 32 was not enough.
Right.
Like we didn't have enough people to run all the tanks, all the transport, all the support roles, and still have a very fulfilling frontline combat experience.
Yeah.
So having those extra people there to literally fill out the battlefield was really the right decision at the time, and we intend to carry that over into squad.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good explanation. Yeah. Yeah, for me, from the environment side, just if I can comment on that, from the environment side, like we've got a brand new engine. So a lot, like again, all these limitations we were working with, they don't exist anymore. So anything we can do to kind of push the envelope, get really detailed. We want to get really detailed levels, but we also want them to be really big. Like we want every space to be compelling. You know, my goal is always as an environment designer is if I can make a player stop and consider the environment rather than firing his gun, I've probably been pretty successful.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of our objective. So detail is important as well as size, which is always the catch-22. Yeah.
I think that is one biggest point of difference between us and our competitors. Most notably, I guess, insurgency, because a lot of people have been comparing us to
I was going to ask you, when you say competitor, who do you think of? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, both of us are indie teams, but and also both of us are trying to replicate modern day, military conflicts. But yeah, again, the biggest point of difference is that our environments are much more open. We have a lot more tactical options, and also even strategic options.
Yeah.
The difference being that tactics works on a squad level between 9 people, whereas strategy works over a 50-man team.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, where do you attack or where do you defend, rather than trying to negotiate the next corner. That's the difference between strategy and tactics. But with the ability to have more players and also a much larger map, it does give the metagame for squad much more. Much more meat.
Much more meat.
Yeah, really, really juicy.
Yeah.
I wanted to, one thing that was just sort of brought up, and I know we'll get to some of the chat questions later, but I saw it scroll by. Someone said, why 100 instead of 128? And my first reaction is, well, I don't know why it's always been 32 anyways. Like, it seems to be...
It seems very arbitrary.
Yeah. It seems almost like a throwback to tech terms where everything's, 8, 16, 32.
Yeah, I think it is.
Power twos.
I think the simple reality is, if we can do 100 and it's successful and we feel like we need more, it's going to be 128. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, we chose something that we think is within scope that we're going to try and achieve. It's not going to be easy, though. We're not kidding anybody. Like, we already know it's going to be a challenge.
It's going to be hard.
But why not give us a challenge? That's our first goal. Let's just call it the first goalpost, So we can hit 100. Yeah, of course. 128. Do you want 132? I don't know. 64? Pick a number. What do you want?
So you mentioned challenges. What challenges have you seen so far already with dealing with that kind of scale, though?
Well, there's some really... from an environment point of view, there's some global challenge that a huge environment takes a shit ton of time to detail. Like, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work. You probably end up passing over the entire map, 80, 100 times in different phases of detailing and things like that. The engine itself being that big hasn't been any challenge at all. We haven't hit any, view distance limitations. Right now, the view distance is unlimited. Like, we have no fog, nothing. Only the fog we have is just to cover the edge of the map, really.
Right.
So right now, there's no limitations on that end. In terms of the actual editor and the engine, it's been fantastic, actually. One of the secondary challenge is that engine is brand new. And, every time we get a major build, capabilities that we didn't have now become available. So we have to rewrite the plan. And that's going to keep happening. I mean, that's one thing hopefully people understand is, we don't even know a year from now what that engine is going to be capable of and how it's going to change our application, like how we build levels, how we approach things.
Yeah. One probably very, very significant change since we started development was addition of, was it instance foliage or something like that?
Yeah, if you want a technical example of the instance foliage system, which is basically, rather than placing trees as an individual unit, the engine will dynamically handle the instancing, so each one is a copy of the original main item. And the advantage of that is you get to put way more trees on the map, basically. So we've gone from a couple thousand trees before they implemented that to 10, 15, 20,000 trees, and that was a single upgrade. I
think I remember one of our environment guys did did a really quick foliage test as soon as the update came out, and in the original Fool's Road, you had what, almost 2,000 trees,
something like that.
And that was considered in PO a forest map.
Yeah.
In this test, we managed to get over, was it 80,000 trees?
Yeah,
something closer to that much in a similar amount of space with very little frame drop.
Right.
Yeah, and when we first saw that test, it was like,
yeah, holy
wow.
crap.
That's a good point, though, when you think about it. If you have a really large map, you do have to put a lot more stuff in it.
Yeah,
because as a player, the last thing that you want on a big map is just to feel like nothing, or the same area looks exactly like where you just were, or it's just like empty.
Or you don't want to know you're at the edge of the playable area because it's empty.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he stopped detailing there. I must be at the end of the playable zone.
I better turn around.
It's like, my immersion is broken.
So since we're sort of talking about maps, what kind of maps do you really want to create? Like, I guess from your personal preference, even, or maybe for the game itself. Like, what do you see fit?
Are you asking for the wish list or what I think is possible?
Maybe both. I don't know. I don't know where the limits are, but
the limits will really be theater and what is conceivably existing in
I think
reality, I guess.
if you want to talk about geography, the reason we started in Afghan, which we've heard, well, it's not necessarily Afghan, it's insurgents versus Americans, is because it's a less of a commitment in environment design, and we didn't know what the engine was capable of. But let me tell you, the engine's capable of desert. It does a real good desert. So we knew that from testing, right? We're like, man, this is going to do an awesome desert, and like maybe we'll get to add bushes. But now we're finding finally that it's maturing enough that we can put a lot of trees. So now we're like, okay, so now the scope is, can we move to the edges of Afghanistan and Pakistan, that area, find some more forested, mountainous terrains, and use that as a secondary kind of next step in that evolution? Potentially looking at Eastern Europe in the future, we've talked about a lot. We've really talked about going into a heavily wooded Eastern European kind of thing, possibly into the whole Syria, that area. Not formally, we're not going to call anybody Syrian, but, like having that kind of era.
Yep.
And one thing, of course, we'd really love to do, especially if the instancing tools really mature, we're going to do some big cities that are going to be just killer. And they'll be like, you can go anywhere you want, you can enter all the buildings, you can do all that kind of stuff, which was kind of one of the staples of PR. Was that kind of openness and the sandboxness. So that would be our wish list, is like to have some really killer cities.
Yeah. Snow maps?
Sure.
I mean,
I could go on and on forever. I like environment stuff is my bread and butter. It gets me excited. So,
in a sense, a snow map isn't that much different from a desert map.
Yeah. How about a desert snow map?
Desert
Anybody?
snow.
Hey, desert snow.
I can do that. I can do that like tomorrow if you want.
Just recolor everything white.
Flat plain map. No, I mean, sky's the limit, really. It's just time and talent, really. That's the limitations right now.
Have you guys got an idea for how many maps you want to have by the time you go to like a beta or an actual release?
If we're talking about an alpha, which is a pre-release, we want to have at least 2 fully fleshed out maps of 2 different scales as well. I would say a full release, we'd be in the 6. We'd want to be in the 5 to 6 range, I would think, would be intelligent.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is once you develop a theater, it's really easy to expand it and do variations on a particular theater of war. So once it's more so developing the theater, and then you can do 3 maps in that theater,
right?
Because you've got all the assets for it,
right?
Yeah.
But that initial moving into a theater, like if we're going to go into Eastern European, we're going to need half a year to build up the assets for that, which is what we needed to do that for the Afghan stuff. Now that we've got the Afghan stuff, we can probably do a few maps that are quasi that kind of area, essentially.
Actually, one thing that I would probably like to talk about is the micro level, like things like building interiors.
It's rather important. Yeah,
all that can also be further fleshed out with the blueprinting system.
Yep. I would say another function of that, being able to instance really efficiently, is what Alastair is alluding to, Chuc, is that we'll probably be able to do some really robust interior stuff where you'll go into a house and there'll be like, the bedrolls and the stove and all that kind of stuff quite populated.
Yeah.
That's on our wish list as well.
Yeah.
We're being really intelligent about it right now. We're not adding that stuff on purpose. It's not because we haven't thought of it. People are like, why don't you make the interiors have stuff in them? We're like, we know. We fucking do this. We get it. We're like, we spend 60 hours a week on this shit. We understand it, right? But yeah, you know, that's on our list. So if you need to comment to us about that, don't. It's like, we get it, man. Yeah, but for sure we want to do that. That's very exciting. That's compelling. Like, you see it going to somebody's house and it looks like somebody's lived there. Fantastic.
Yeah, and also doors are another sort of big thing that we want on our sort of wish list.
Functional doors of some capacity.
Right. Yeah, breach mechanics, whatever.
What about destruction? There's a lot of chat going on about it, and that was a question we wanted to ask as well.
Buildings, walls, all that, right?
Stuff coming down, explosions.
Yes, it's your territory.
The short answer is the engine is completely capable. It doesn't always fit the style of gameplay. It's a hell of a ton of work. So I think if we're going to do it, it's probably going to be more into the era when we get into city maps. That's when we would consider it. Right now, it doesn't really make sense for us because we're trying to get scale. Right now, we're not trying to do destructibility. It's almost like the third thing. It's like scale, detail, and then probably move into destruction. We could do it in some limited scope, like maybe breaching doors, things like that. That's kind of what we're planning.
Yeah.
And then maybe more limited, like the fire base assets can be destroyed, which is somewhat destroyable. They can be taken out and things like that. So, I mean, it's going to be an evolution. It's a really dangerous territory. When you start breaking off 10,000 pieces of block, and then everybody's got to see them, you're like...
That's, yeah.
Dangerous territory.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Yeah.
I was going to say that's part of the problem with Battlefield, I think, to be honest. Is the destructibility. It's cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, really cool. But it doesn't leave much room for netcode other than telling you what just broke.
Exactly, yeah.
Pandora's box, man.
Yeah.
Totally Pandora's box.
Would there be like... I would imagine you can do it on different scales too, like where you mentioned doors maybe or something like that. Or maybe... does the engine have different surfaces? Like, can you shoot through... wooden fences? Do bullets penetrate?
Penetration? Oh, yeah.
Does it have that? So it's got
totally
that
capable.
kind of...
Definitely,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is about as far as we would be able to go at this point.
Right.
That would kind of be the scope for the short term. So I hope nobody's disappointed, but that's the way it's going to be.
Let's see. You want to switch over to talking a bit about some other aspects of the game, like... you sort of mentioned the types and factions a little bit when you talked about the theaters. Right now, what do you have in the game?
Insurgents and the American Army.
Yeah, U.S. Army.
And I assume if you introduce a different theater later, that will bring in
naturally
new factions.
Yeah.
And,
new factions, different battlescapes.
Yeah. We have two options basically. Do we follow the path that's always followed, or we follow a path that's less walked upon, and that has us just looking at the demographics and who we want the other. No, it's really we really spend a lot of time thinking about who's playing the game, what is the story we're trying to craft, what's going to be compelling, and then we have to think in terms of conventional forces. Who can mount a really good fight against the American Army? So we have to be really conscious of that. Or do we want an asymmetrical faction, like an Eastern European militia or something of that nature that actually has some decent weapons but nothing really heavy? So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're not actually committing to anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've got some plans, of course, but we've got a bunch of options in front of us, and we're paying attention once we get to the alpha to see which way we want to go with it.
Yeah. But one thing that we have going for the squad, as with the original PR, is that we don't have any political allegiances or anything. We just we almost see these factions really objectively for what they are in terms of a fighting force.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not going to nerf a faction so that you can shoot it a lot if you're the American Army.
Right, yeah, because then, it'd be really difficult to, in real life, find two equal and...
Yeah, I'll tell you, our insurgents are going to be nasty. Like, when we fully fleshed out their kit and gear and everything, like, watch out, man, I'm going to be playing them all the time. They're going to be fun stuff.
Especially conventional army combat, like... the world hasn't seen that kind of warfare in over 50 years.
Right. And
to try to imagine that in a game is something really different. And when you have lots of modern tanks with all this with all this heavy technology integrated into it, how do you deal with that as an infantryman or even as a tank. Like, these are questions that usually real life doesn't kind of have answers to, and we have to sort it out within the game.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, what if both sides have thermal imaging technology? Yeah. All
right, Katie. Pick another
go.
one. There's some good questions in the chat. I just want to remind people, like, ask those again
during the Q&A.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah. We don't have a whole lot of this to go through, so you'll get to ask your own questions real soon.
Okay, so then discussing down on a squad level, like, what are we looking at class-wise? What are we looking at kit-wise within your own squad? You said there are 9 players? Is that what I heard you said, roughly?
Yep, 9 squad members in a squad.
So what would an ideal squad look like then?
It really depends on what kind of mission you or what kind of purpose the squad leader wants to tailor the squad towards. So, for example, you could technically run a squad comprised of 1 officer who has command tools and 8 riflemen.
Sure.
And you can be an effective fighting force because the basic rifleman class or basic rifleman kit really can do most battlefield roles to some degree of competency. So they have a rifle, they have grenades, they have smoke grenades, they can build things, they can do really basic first aid. But then of course, if you want to be if you want your squad to be more versatile, then that's where you sort of integrate different kits, different classes into your squad. So if you want to live longer, if you want your squad to have more longevity in the field, then you would bring along a medic.
If not 2.
If not 2 medics, right. Yeah. If you want your squad to have more sustainable firepower and even become a lot more defensive, then you bring along 1 or 2 automatic riflemen, guys with machine guns, basically. If you want AT anti-tank capability, then you bring along. Then you basically assign one of your guys to have a rocket launcher, light AT, heavy anti-tank, like
UGLs as well.
UGLs, grenade launchers. Basically, what these kits do is augment a squad's sort of fighting capability, and what's more is that we don't put people into a template. Like what we found with a lot of other games that do use a squad based system is that they have the squad already laid out, like with the roles and stuff.
Yeah.
And then people just join these roles.
Right.
The way that we're approaching it is much more organic. It's like everyone joins in, and then everyone chooses the role that they want to fulfill.
So you can mix and match and build up your squad
exactly
the way you feel is appropriate for that situation. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And the baseline kit, the absolute lowest. I shouldn't say lowest, but the most so the easiest to play kit is the rifleman kit.
Yeah.
And you can achieve all your objectives perfectly fine as a rifleman.
Right.
Anything above that is just a specialization.
Right.
Yeah.
So then specializing would be, instead of, I feel like the way you want it to work organically, like you said, would be more customizing to what you want it to do. Not so much, okay, this is a medic, this is a machine gunner, this is a engineer, so to say, more deciding what they want to carry and what they want to use and what type of player they're going to be.
It's I think it really does come down to the discretion of the person leading the squad. So, like, for example, if a squad leader wants to set up a defensive position, then he'll be like, okay, I'm gonna need a machine gun for this. Then he's gonna tell one of his guys, or one of the guys should already have a machine gun on him, and the person playing that role, like, in order we see progression within squad as more of a ability to adapt, and also more of an ability to be flexible in different roles. So whether as a rifleman or as a machine gunner or as a grenadier, for example, like being able to adapt to these roles, and also also do what your squad leader commands to is really the most important thing at the end of the day. Yeah. And it's also one of the reasons why we opt for a much more standardized loadout. So like pretty much most kits work off your standard issue rifle.
Right.
Everyone is on an equal playing field. No one has a special low 50 gun or something like that.
Right.
Just because they've been playing the game more.
Right.
Yeah.
But
so that sort of leads into what you see a lot nowadays in games, is leveling up and progression of things. Is that something you guys are going to be looking into, or is it just going to be it's all there for you and you just pick and choose?
I think your leveling up is when you learn how to form a really good squad.
Right.
Yeah.
That's your leveling up.
So you're given all the tools.
You're given all the tools from the very beginning.
You may suck at everything.
Yeah.
You may join a server, pick up a sniper kit, and then but because you don't know what the sniper kit is intended to do, aside from killing people from long range, you're not going to be a very good sniper. Yeah. So we see progression as more of something that you learn
right
for real in your head. I don't know if there's any way to quantify.
No, I think it's people who played PR already know that. Like, you go off, grab your favorite kid, and go run away. You're gonna achieve no objectives, and B, your squad leader's gonna call you a giant jackass and kick you out of the squad.
The squad, yeah.
And then probably you're gonna get kicked off the server potentially too. You know, so it's just there's kind of a natural asshole filter in the community when you play on a really serious server.
Right.
And that totally changes it from Battlefield 2 and those other games where you can just be a solo operation.
Yeah.
We were testing today, and without your squad, you would achieve nothing.
Yeah.
You're not getting kills, necessarily, so.
Yeah. And actually one thing that factors greatly into the whole kit role system is limitations. Like team-wide, you would probably only have maybe 2 snipers.
Right.
Or even on a squad level, you can maybe have a maximum of one or 2 machine guns.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like everyone can.
So that is going to be. There's going to be a limit.
It's going to be a limit.
To how many? Okay. So you're not going to have,
a team of machine gunners.
Right. Okay.
No.
That's good.
Which makes sense.
Because I mean, that is one thing that we can borrow from reality. It's not like you see squads of a Marine fire team having 4 machine guns.
Right. Yeah. There are no 8-man sniper squads out there.
Exactly.
No, that's right.
You mentioned objectives. What kind of objectives are you guys going to be implementing as far as how do you win a map aside from just killing the other team more than they kill you?
I'll be completely honest with you. Right now, we're for the first stage, we're just mimicking the AAS, which is the Assault and Secure game mode, which is a flag. It could be non-parallel flags too. It's not necessarily linear. Like, you could have a group of flags you have to capture, or it could be a linear depending on the nature of the map. But that is we actually have that functioning now. That's what we're using as our gameplay element. But in terms of going forward, we have quite a few ideas about how we want to expand on that and make it even potentially like zone of control, like objectives of opportunity that just come up as a result of the actions you're taking as a team. And there could even be secondary things that are just beneficial, but you don't have to do.
Right.
Like capturing some kind of a lot to do with the fire bases and the metagame inside that.
Yeah.
Is supply rates, things like that. It could be ammo, it could be caches. The sky's the limit. But right now we know how to test with AAS, so that's what we're using.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Once we see that functioning, we'll commit to something a little bit more complex.
Yeah. I remember one thing that I think I sort of talked to you about, Chris. Like back in the original Command & Conquer days, I remember some of my favorite missions were to find a old disused base and then bring it back up to speed.
Yeah. Right.
And if we can, find some way of
U.S. Army, like you spawn at the starting of the round. You come to an old rundown fob, and part of the initial part of the game is to bring the fob back up to speed and get ready for the insurgent attack, which is coming because they're 4 kilometers away. They're walking, no vehicles, so we get them. They're going to need like a good 5 minutes to get to you or whatever, right, in game time.
Yeah,
and they're like, they're coming, and it's real time, and they're coming, and they're running as fast as they possibly can to get to you.
Yeah.
But with that kind of environment and scope, we can really control the timing. So that you guys would just be getting that base up to snuff and get some like hard points down and some firing positions
before lots of
suddenly the RPGs just like come like a concert over your head, right? Be fun stuff.
So that whole concept of base building, and I mean, it's not really base. I guess it's fire bases.
We call it deployables.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about that. Like, that sounds like it will really do something that you don't see very much in comparable games, I guess.
Yeah, it's quite a different entity. And do you want to, like, are you asking what is an overview of how that works?
Yeah, I would be interested in that. I'm sure everyone else.
I mean, I think globally the objective is to let the players be able to affect the spawn dynamics through having a base that they can establish. And the secondary thing is let the players change the flow of the map. Mm-hmm. So they can occupy areas and control areas really effectively by building a fob that's actually well protected, or perhaps the insurgents can actually block off an entire road, put down cement barriers, barbed wire, the whole deal.
Not to mention you can actually put some teeth on these things as well. So things like heavy machine guns,
right.
guided missiles, mortar pits,
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, AAA cannons. I don't know, whatever you want.
So it's giving and it's not necessary, actually. You can actually play the game, let's say as the insurgents, you don't need to build anything. Right. But if you want to block off a certain area and funnel people in, it's actually an effective strategy. You could do it. You could put down cement barriers, razor wire, the whole works.
And what's cool is that because we can actually build this deployable system from scratch, we can work with the tools that come with the engine. So things like being able to see what you're putting down before you put it down, or things like drawing a line in front of you, and then suddenly a line of razor wire appears.
Yeah, actually, how we've got the first implementation right now, you can literally click on the ground.
Drag it over.
Pull it across to another area, and you can see the barbed wire ghosted on the terrain.
Right.
And then you commit to it, and it gets built by your squad. Nice. And it's there.
And it takes a little bit of time to get it built?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not instantaneous at all. And then it can be destroyed as well.
Right.
That's another big thing. Any firebase could effectively be destroyed.
With enough RPGs.
With enough RPGs, yeah.
RPGs confirmed.
Sorry?
RPGs confirmed.
Yeah, RPGs confirmed.
I think we have 4 different kinds of ammunition model for it.
Yeah.
For the RPGs?
Yeah, for the RPG. Yeah, there's there's like your standard so like cone.
Do you know what you're talking about, Alastair?
Yeah, dude.
He's like, there's one that's like this shape. There's one that's like this.
This is like a club. No, it's yeah.
Well, it's fragmentation, high explosive.
There's the heat round, which is used for anti-tank purposes, and we got the frag round, which is really short and stubby.
Yeah.
And that is basically a flying grenade.
Yeah.
There's one called a thermal blag round, which almost acts as a I don't know, maybe like a fire starter, but at the same time, it's mostly used to clear out enclosed spaces like rooms and caves.
Yeah, it's basically a thermobaric type weapon.
Yeah, and then
gas and fire and death.
And all that nice stuff. And then I think there's like a tandem round.
There's a tandem round. Yeah, somebody just posted it.
There's a tandem round. Used for much tougher armor.
Right.
Yeah.
So like its description, it literally has 2 rounds inside the same weapon. And
they'll have different like weight and so like ballistics and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep. Totally.
Phallic shaped RPGs confirmed.
I gotta fix the chat for some reason. Your turn, Katie.
Okay, so you mentioned the insurgents running on foot, so they get no vehicles, correct?
No, they do get vehicles.
They'll get vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was talking about me doing that intentionally to give the other team more time. Maybe they'll have a flat tire at the beginning, and they gotta fix the tire before they can take their technical out. No, they'll have vehicles for sure. Yeah.
What are we talking? More basic or
short-term technicals with various mounted weapons is the plan.
Flatbed truck
with various mounted weapons, and then potentially on from there with different militias and things like that. They might get something a little bit heavier: BMPs, APCs, old tanks, ex-Russian era big tanks and stuff like that.
We've seen a lot of wacky vehicles come out of the recent conflicts in the Middle East,
like BMP turrets mounted on pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Who was it that mentioned bicycles during one of the play tests?
Oh,
Bicycles.
Someone wanted bicycles. Yeah. Just when we had to spawn all the way back and we had to go for a run. You know? It's like, I'd love to have a bicycle.
Bicycles.
Actually, speaking of bicycles, I think Forgotten 2 was the only mod or game ever had a functioning bicycle on there.
Really?
Yeah.
I hear bicycles, I think of the DayZ mod.
Oh, there's as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it looked ridiculous, the animation for that. And you would know, I'm sure, probably actually modeling, like creating a bicycle riding animation is probably pretty difficult.
You can't. Like
the leaning would be difficult to do well.
Like, what if you...
Yeah, the guy just leans sideways.
What if you decelerate? Like, do you fall over? Like, you go like that or something? Or?
Yeah, and then just stand up, I guess. I don't know. It's just not...
Cool.
Yeah. All right, what else do we have here? I guess we can do 2 more questions here at the end, and then we'll just finally let chat is,
going
foaming
nuts.
at the mouth.
They're ready to.
I guess the one thing we should ask here: where do you picture Squad's going to fit in between, Battlefield and Call of Duty and Armor 3 and all those like Insurgency? Where do you picture it aside from just people who enjoyed Project Reality? Who do you think it will be attracted to it, and who's going to be sort of like your audience?
Good.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, there's, again, a really broad subject, but I would say what we're seeing right now is we have 2 demographics, and one is the younger demographic, and they're the Battlefield players and that type of person, Insurgency, and not all young, but generally speaking, we can actually track this, with our analytics. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a lot of this stuff. And then we have a really big surge in older kind of semi-retired gamers who played a lot of Delta Force and things like that. Joint Ops and all this kind of stuff. And they're actually coming back to us in like large numbers. We're really seeing a big influx of these people who were waiting for something that was... the big thing we're hearing is casual enough to access, i.e. they can get on and play it after work because they got 2 kids and stuff like that. But they can also play for a 1-hour round and get fully engaged and not have to commit to it because those guys actually like Arma 3, but they have no time to play it.
Yeah, because you don't want to have to deal with like a 3-hour setup thing, and you have like the 1 hour after work.
And I think if we could find because we still want that slowness, which is one thing that was characteristic of PR that was really good, is getting ready and having a coherent squad and having that pace to it. Mm-hmm. But you still got to be able to get in game fairly quickly. So, I mean, objectively, we're really looking for the blend of those 2 is what we're trying to do. And that's not even looking at Insurgency or Call of Duty or anything. We're just like, we know functionally what we're trying to blend, the components essentially.
Yeah. And that's not to say that players can't create an environment where things are much more organized.
Totally, yeah.
And maybe even they want 3-hour rounds.
Yeah,
it's their prerogative.
Yeah.
If we do a really good job, they'll be able to modify the game in such a way through the natural options that they'll be able to play a 3-hour round with a lot of complexity if that's what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions in our doc, Katie, or do we want to go?
Yeah, I have one last one before we move on to the Q&A. So how can people get involved with Squad? Your forums, your Kickstarter, how can they jump in and help out or join in?
I think the biggest help that people could be to us, you mean to get involved for their own purposes or to help us out?
Both.
If you're like, I know how to animate bicycle riding,
Say that PM to me.
I didn't bring it up. Someone else mentioned it.
The most beneficial thing that people could do for us is be our advocates when we're doing a lot of these things like Greenlight, things like that, because it's amazing what a difference having 15% more people as critical mass and those kinds of things, like a Kickstarter or something like that.
Yeah.
Being the advocates, talking to people,
tell your friends,
tell your friends,
tell your communities. Yeah.
Almost more meaningful than anything else. Donations are great too, but I would say the ability of people to just go out and draw their friends in is actually way more meaningful than even giving us $20 or something. Yeah. It is far more valuable.
And now that's still something you're planning on doing, right? Is it a Kickstarter Founders Club type of thing, or?
Yep.
But it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't launched yet.
No, right now the roadmap is the Founders/Kickstarter, depending on what we decide to do there, which we're planning right now, and then Steam.
Almost like early access or deal.
Yeah, and early access. When we decide we've got it to the point where all the base roadmap elements are completely implemented, which is getting pretty close, which is nice. Like the gameplay has finally gotten heart thumping on a lot of occasions, which is what we've been working through 13 months of like really simple crap, you know what I mean? Because we initiated with almost nothing. We built it from the ground up, scrap, everything.
Yeah.
So trust me, we played some crappy, boring gameplay like 10 months ago, right? But just the last 2 months or so, it's just been getting way more fun, way more exciting.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so I guess what we can do now is if you guys want to ask questions in the chat, I think the best way to do this is if you put @Battlefield Podcast somewhere in the question, it'll highlight it for me, and Katie's going to be reading it as well. One question that I saw that just scrolled by, but it relates, was somebody asking, when can we join alpha or beta? Like a rough timeline.
we're going to do quick answers because there'll be a lot of questions, okay?
Apparently my screen's turning red from questions.
Rapid fire answers.
It's going crazy right now. So.
When we do our founders / Kickstarter, immediately after or very soon after, you'll be able to join an alpha. That's the answer.
Chuc, I support we have not looked into it yet, but it is something that we could look into.
How will we handle the pre-round? Right now, we don't have any definite plans, but there's some idea to have some planning time, but it'd be totally subjective based on the map. Go, Chuc.
How about signing access work with teams or organizing each as a vehicle, or there be game mechanic support? For the moment, we are actually going to be going to the PR model, which is basically player organized.
All right, let's
Okay. We can keep going.
Everybody wants to know about fast ropes.
Oh my god.
Do you plan to have popular PR maps make a return? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Fool's Road version 3, yeah.
Yeah, Fool's Road would be a candidate for sure. We already looked at it. How does the spawn system work? Spawn or squad spawn point? That's a dense question.
Main base spawn, yeah. But also player place spawns through rally points.
Yeah, main base spawn, rally point spawns, fire base spawns.
Right. Yeah. So not the objective. So that's one thing during my playtest. Like if you're used to Battlefield spawning, you cap an objective, you spawn it. Not in this game.
No.
So you have to actually, aside from your main spawn, you have to actively do something.
Actively defend it. Yeah.
You have to manage your own spawn. Yeah.
Yep.
How much money are they trying to raise? As much as possible.
We're going to be able to do this all day.
Realistically, if we wanted to develop this game over 2 years to its kind of full basic implementation, we would probably need $2 or $3 million total.
Yep. Mechanic system, we actually do like how simple and effective the mechanic system in PR works, but naturally we're going to be developing on it. One thing we're really going to seriously consider is things like casualty dragging.
Okay.
So being able to move your casualty. And
that would be cool.
Yeah, and yeah, just like quality of life improvements over the original system.
Right. What makes Squad unique from games like Insurgency? Very large maps, vehicles. Never ask me again.
Yeah, we kind of touched on that anyways.
Aren't you Shane from Vice News?
You?
I don't know who's that directed at.
I don't know either. He's been asking some strange questions all the way throughout. Can we have 200 player servers? We talked about that earlier.
So, no, but yes.
As a paid product, unlike PR, are you concerned you will drift to create a more marketable game at the expense of core ideas? That's a good question.
It's a very good question.
Because with a mod, you people typically weren't in it for any kind of financial gain, and were just doing what they wanted to.
I don't know what the short answer to that question is.
Are you concerned it will drift to create a more marketable game? I don't think so, because we have carved out a niche for ourselves with our formula, and we don't need to be straying from that in order to find more players, I feel.
I think the counterpoint to that, or the additional point, is, like I said before, PR is not one entity. It's had so many lives.
Yeah.
So the reality is, we think if we extract all those good, really, really good components, we're probably going to end up with something marketable anyhow.
Yeah.
It's going to be a side effect of building, extracting all the best stuff.
One really interesting thing that happened with PR is that a lot of it is community developed. And our natural answer back in the PR days was that if you want this, you got to make it yourself.
Yeah.
And also, things like Kickstarter nowadays help out with that. Like you can get commitment from people who are really into it in the start, at least, to help out with the start.
Yeah.
What else? Fast ropes?
Fast ropes.
I can almost guarantee that you'll see fast ropes at some point.
In some form or another.
Will they be no respawn modes?
Oh, so like
like round-based Counter-Strike style. Yeah.
No.
What about someone asked about realistic weapon characteristics, overheating, gun jams?
A gun doesn't tend to
rate of fire, muzzle velocity, that kind of thing.
Like
short answer.
Short
Right.
answer.
We got time.
Quick fire round.
Short answer. No jamming, because that is a random component that can't be counted by the player, and is something that kind of runs counter to what we want to do. In that we have reliable systems and everything is on the player's decision making, and not the kind of and not whether the fact that you accidentally drop your weapon into the mud. Yeah. Anyway,
which
way we can?
Volumetric clouds. No idea yet.
Mods,
but they're possible. Yeah.
Can we make sure Wicked doesn't get access? Depends how much money you guys donate to us.
Are you pretty sure Wicked doesn't get access?
It's all based on the funding.
Yeah.
What kind of mod support tools you plan? Actually, wish list, that'll be my primary role somewhere down the road. If we have enough money for me to absolutely commit myself to this project, one of the things I would love to do is pretty much spend the majority of my time developing mod teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where we started too.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think there's a great monetary component there too. There's no reason we can't help a mod get developed and then help them monetize it in partnership.
A bit like the Rising Storm deal with the Red Orchestra 2 guys.
Are we going to have air support for ground units like A-10s, or we'll have fighter jets? Quick answers.
Quick answers, yes. I mean, like Divisional PR worked quite well with fighters. Oh, so with air superiority fighters and also air-to-ground bombers as well. So
I would say if we can get up to like 16-kilometer maps or something, you'd probably see them show up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's go to this one.
Okay.
How are you guys planning on preventing vital roles like an officer from being taken by a less experienced player?
That's
really, always been...
No. I think it comes down to the actual, squad members themselves. Like they can initiate a mutiny just by leaving the squad and making their own. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're not happy with your squad leader, you go...
Just make your own squad.
Well, I mean, he'll end up with squad by himself, and then maybe we have a mechanism there where you can't even be a solo squad. So the mutiny by itself will completely disrupt his squad, and he'll be on the outside, and he'll have to join a squad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of our tenets, that you're not going to be able to sit outside of squads. It's not even going to be an option.
Yeah.
More fast rope stuff. Can we expect a better tick rate than the 28 from Battlefield 2?
No idea yet. Yes. I would say yes, of course. Yeah. Was Battlefield 2, how old is it?
8 years.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you guys love your work?
You mean our day jobs, or
this is the thing you guys gotta remember. These guys both have regular day jobs.
And I have a wife and a kid.
I doesn't sleep too, but I do have a day job.
Yeah, I do about 40 hours a week in my regular job, 30 to 40 hours on squad.
Yeah,
and a wife and a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, I have to if I work that much.
Yeah.
Or else I'm retarded.
I love both my day job and also what I do for squad. And in fact, I mean, I work as a 2D pen and paper animator, so coming home and working in 3D it kind of is a refreshing change of pace. Yeah.
Cool.
Range of a map we sort of talked about.
Yeah. Skip. Pass.
Gameplay footage. We're going to play some after this. Go ahead, Katie. Sorry. Your turn.
Day-night cycle.
You read off some.
Will there be a day-night cycle?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, our entire environment will be dynamic shadows.
Yeah.
We're committed to that.
We have some very exciting sort of ideas coming up with regards to night combat and how we sort of balance the technological superiority of the Americans and the sticks and stones approach of the insurgents.
Yep.
How will the commander work in terms of deployable assets?
We don't know yet.
We're not sure yet, but we need to flesh it out.
Will there be a max number of squads, or will it just be unlimited as long as there's a...
Actually, the limitation, the way I see it right now, is actually kind of trivial. It's actually a limitation with double-digit numbers. Like, you know how in
you're talking number of people in the squad or number of squads?
Number of squads.
Okay.
Yeah. So like 1 to 9 is traditionally how it is. Sorry, 9 is the maximum amount of squads you can have on a team, because when we go into double digits, we're gonna need to think about how that's going to affect the UI, how the icons have to be stretched, I don't know, to accommodate for 2 digits. Also, communicating via radio, voice chat from squad to squad means that you can't really use your keypad 1 to 9 numbers.
So you need another. We need to think of another mechanism, basically.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
But 9 squads right now is pretty.
Go ahead.
Pretty good number.
Yeah, 9 times 9 is 81 aside.
And you can't have 81 players on a team.
Right.
Yeah.
So at this rate, you can have a couple of squads that are like half full. And
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Any melee combat?
I do want to do that, but it is in terms of priority quite low.
Yep.
Let's see what else.
I like this question. It's clearly... Will I be able to tie my friend up in a fast rope and use him as an improvised gunner for maximum MLG purposes?
That may be one of the mods later. And whoever put that, you're welcome to PM me, and maybe you can start building that mod.
Yeah. Unreal Engine.
You don't have to answer that.
Unreal Engine, as of last month, is free.
Yeah.
You can download the source code for Unreal Engine 4 and make your own prototype. That's the beauty of it.
Oh gosh.
Will wounded players who become disabled veterans have any retirement funds?
Speaking to that though, will there be things if you're injured, like exaggerated scope sway, that kind of thing?
Yes.
If you're injured or tired. Okay.
There'll be some implementation.
Yeah. We were also playing around with a casualty evacuation system, but that needs to be fleshed out.
That's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment.
That's down the road.
Yeah.
Well, good thing it was a closed bottle.
I vacuumed before you guys came. Will there be a possibility of having a campaign mode similar to Battleground Europe, where there's constant battles going on 24/7 in large-scale maps? That sounds like
very unlikely.
We did like the round-to-round based sort of mechanic we had, where as soon as the round's over, no stress anymore.
Yeah. No, we haven't even breached that in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Will there be any supply drops, etc.? Like, can a squad leader order in supplies for your troops?
Yes and no.
Supply drops will be player driven. Right. So you could so a squad leader will need to communicate with another squad.
A supply squad.
A supply squad. I mean, like conceivably, a player would just want to run a supply squad, and this person would be flying around in a helicopter or
a
truck. Yeah, and they would physically deliver supplies to them.
Okay.
And if you guys are not familiar with PR, that's much more applicable to the fire bases, where there will be a supply element to fire bases. In order for them to be viable, they will need to be supplied.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't just appear out of thin air. Somebody actually has to.
Someone actually has to go there.
And another nice thing is it limits the ability for people to just put a fire base wherever they want, because it won't be supplied.
Yeah,
right.
So it'd essentially be ineffective. No ammo, no supply, no weapons.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I mean, like non-combat roles are something that we really pride ourselves in. In sort of
my nickname actually is IronTaxi.
Right.
I was an APC driver. That was the IronTaxi. I never, that's all I did. I picked up squads and dropped them off, and then supported them and came and picked them up when they called me.
Yeah.
So does that relate, this question here, will we have to carry supplies manually to the vehicles?
No, we're probably gonna hybrid that so that it happens pretty automatic once you've taken supplies to a base or something.
Yeah.
The base will absorb the supplies rather than you having to manually transport them to the base.
This all day.
Yeah. I don't want to be the crate carrying guy. A specific role. Crate carrier. No.
I can carry 2 crates on my hands. So.
This is a good one. Is it the plan of the dev squad to keep developing after the final release? I think we're consciously looking at about 2 years right now as a commitment if everything goes well. And then the idea that people are going to want eventually to not just make this their entire life for the rest of eternity. So it might be handed over to a team, much like PR does. It just evolved through a bunch of different developers. But the scope of what we could do in Squad, if anybody who knows PR, is like, it's limitless.
Limitless, yeah.
We could spend 6 or 8 years developing this game.
And get back all those 13 factions that we did in PR.
Yeah, 13
You just have to
factions.
set yourself these goals in between where you say, okay, at some point we have to release this,
Exactly.
and then we want to do more after that. We'll do that.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you'll just be developing continuously.
It'll be like a black hole of,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, 2 years is what we're looking at as a general scope for achieving our primary objectives.
That's actually an interesting question. Any quality of life improvements for kit selection, so we can see who takes which kit? Yeah. Things that we can improve are, things in the actual UI. Like, for example, being able to sort of select someone on the mini on the pull-up map and see which kit they have and things like that. Like, one of the tenets of having a kit system means that you can tell what another player has and is capable of, and that way you can facilitate teamwork that way.
Right.
One of the reasons why it doesn't work so well in other games like Battlefield is because you can be what was it, the assault, and you can either be a medic or someone with a really big gun.
Right.
Well, I mean, I'm talking in very general terms, but you're not sure what the person next to you is capable of in those.
Correct. Just because he is an engineer doesn't mean he's not going to carry around
a repair tool.
or a carbine.
Or carbine.
Right. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Alastair, someone has a question for you. In a forum post in February, you mentioned you moved all the way from New Zealand to Canada in order to work on Squad. How are you adjusting to the move to Vancouver?
It's good. Actually, I came from Sydney, Australia, it's been good so far. Actually, I do kind of miss the sun sometimes, but Vancouver's been really good to me. My current workplace, I work at an animation studio called Titmouse Animation. They do shows like Venture Brothers, and Motor City. The really hip, traditionally animated shows.
No idea.
Anyway, but yeah, like the city's been good. It feels a lot like Sydney actually. Yeah, but with different weather patterns. Yeah.
Let's see. Talk about server administration tools. It's probably a little early for that, is it?
Well, one thing that's kind of right on the tip of starting now, right, is having really robust in-game recording tools like a battle recorder that also has a lot of admin tools. And we're putting a really heavy focus into designing that right now because we really want that control, like the battle recorder, even in terms of cheating and being able to catch cheaters, having a really robust tool like that. That's going to help us. That's going to be the first step.
We can't exactly talk about the technical details because we're not the ones making it.
Exactly. We're not the coders.
But spiritually, it is like we have always appreciated the server admins that have helped us make PR the game it is by helping to foster their communities, by helping to call out people that weren't that were causing trouble, basically. And
I think we're gonna go to the admins that we already know and the communities that we already know, and we're gonna have them in really early when we're getting ready to get to the server level.
Find out what they need, what they want.
What they want. Yeah.
And literally get their clans maybe testing internally and see where things are failing and spend some time on that.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about IEDs and suicide bombs, that kind of thing.
It is very controversial.
IEDs I could see, suicide bombers unlikely.
That's what I was gonna say.
Suicide bombs.
I would see IEDs. Those are more,
Yeah, they make sense for insurgent faction versus U.S. Army, so that'll probably happen.
Yeah.
We talked about day-night cycle. Weather changes?
Yeah, totally implementable in that engine, and it's just a matter of coming to the top of the list and working on it. We'd love to see rain.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
really good rain.
Well, blizzard.
Blizzards even, yeah.
Sandstorms.
Shiny stuff. Shiny stuff makes people happy, so.
Shiny stuff that blurs their vision.
What graphics card is the minimum for this?
Completely unable to tell you at this point.
The engine is scalable.
Yeah.
So theoretically, you could run everything on low and have a fairly low range graphic card.
Yeah,
I guess
right now you could. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the ultimate test for it is to download the engine and run some of the content examples. And see how well that functions on your system.
Yeah. I would say a lot of ours right now we're probably less heavy than the content examples in the engine.
Yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit more about the commander role. There's some questions here about UAVs and deployable assets that I saw.
I don't think we can answer that right now.
Yeah,
it's not. We're going to deal with the squad level first, and then we'll move on to the commander. Yeah, we got some general global ideas, but nothing we'd be willing to commit to right at this point.
Fair enough.
She ran away.
Yeah. She did. She sent me a message, which I can't see without making her screen go away. Okay, this is the question about New Zealand, which was really Australia. Estimated release date, will we? Weather changes.
Custom insignia?
For each squad?
Will there be custom insignia or each squad like patches on the uniforms? We could see that happening for clans, potentially. We've talked about it, and it's very executable. So that might be where you would see that come up. Yeah.
But again, it's not a number one priority item.
No.
For development.
This guy's just going to keep asking that question, and we'll just always skip it. Will there be a move to help the community create maps before release?
Sorry, will there be a move to help the community create maps?
Well, really, them creating maps wouldn't be until after if you have mod support.
Right, honestly, and that's what I was kind of touching on, the fact that the engine is evolving. You're better off not to. I think you're better off to wait till the engine gets another 8 or 12 months down the road. And then, because right now what we're facing is everything is changing. It just keeps changing. You just be like, if you're not super dedicated, you're never going to finish the map. Period.
Yeah.
21:9 aspect ratio or 4K support. I can tell you from my own experience, it runs fine in 4K.
Cool.
There you go.
Fine. So I don't know what 21:9.
That's like cinematic movie.
That's super widescreen or something.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's based on the engine. If the engine does it and your graphics card supports it. I don't know about the aspect ratio. I don't know what that will do to the UI, but just the regular 4K at 16:9, everything scales
totally
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What else do we got?
Tactical map on tablet for squad leader. We were actually talking about that this morning.
That's probably why it was posted, because I answered on the forums.
So okay.
Yeah. No, we actually put it on our coding backlog wish list.
Yeah, wish list.
Yep.
See a lot of DLC questions. Is there going to be any?
We have no intent of making anybody ever pay for a DLC for the core game. If anything, we would want to see some mod groups create like a World War II version or whatever they want to do, and we would monetize that.
Yeah, we would integrate it for them into the main game, the main package.
Okay.
And basically do a revenue sharing or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking about the communication, how it works. So I do know there's inter-squad and intra-squad communication, and then also squad leaders can communicate with commander and each other, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, I think there's at least 4 different channels. So you got local voice over IP, which is you can communicate with anyone, whether they be in your squad or not, within 50 meters of you.
Does it apply to enemies too?
No, it doesn't actually.
So it's only within the same.
Only within your same team. I can answer that sub question later. But there's local. There's inter squad. Is it inter squad? Yeah, which is communicating with your squad mates and your squad leader, no matter where on the map they are. There's the squad between squad where we have 2 different functions where you can actually broadcast to as a squad leader to all squad leaders, or use the numpad to selectively choose which squad leader that you want to talk to. And of course, when we actually implement the commander role later on, then he can talk individually to squad members, to squad leaders, or broadcast as well.
So it all flows down nicely, basically. Commander will talk to squad leaders can talk to each other, and then everybody inside the squad can talk.
Can talk
and then
as well. And
a proximity thing when you're close enough to each other.
And local is a nice sort of glue that holds everything together. Like probably one of the most annoying things I found in playing games is that there's no conceivable way to talk to the person next to you.
Right, yeah.
Tell them that there's a enemy right around the corner, but you can't do that without opening up chat or something.
Honestly, so far it's working quite well. It took me a while to adjust in testing to remember that I had all those options, but now that it's the localized, like it's become intuitive. If somebody's right next to you, you hit the V for the localized. Yeah. And, it seems
and local, you can't, like the enemy can't hear your local communications, correct?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. Is that something you're planning on doing?
We're probably not going to do it because
we know from experience it's not actually a good thing.
No, because we had that kind of setup when Mumble was first introduced. But Mumble is basically 3D positional VoIP introduced in the original Project Reality, and for it kind of degenerated into lots of cursing, lots of smack talk between teams.
Right.
And
let's put that ability in Rust. I used it to play Justin Bieber over the speakers when guys were attacking my base. Don't really want that happening in squad.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. What kind of options for dedicated server hosts? Again, that goes back to sort of what you said earlier. You'll figure that out and talk to.
When we get to that point, all those server admins or people involved in that are welcome to, like, we're gonna do a call out and we'll get a round table going, because we know that's one of the most important things actually to the actual execution of the game, and keeping it popular. Because if it gets corrupt and there's bad options, it's just going to be cheaters everywhere, etc.
More explosions?
Oh yeah. Boom.
We've got some really great military advisors. I should really give them a little bit of credit. Sergeant Ross and Melbo, who are working with us. And they've been really sharing a lot of content where we're taking stuff like the UGL was a great example, looking at how those grenades actually function and how they actually explode and their range of effect. We're going to be more in line with the reality and how they actually function, as opposed to a big firebomb exploding like an entire squad. So those guys have been absolutely invaluable. And they tell us the good stories, the bad stories, everything. Yeah, we've heard a lot of interesting conversation about the battlefield.
For the record, Sergeant Ross was a former Marine.
Okay.
He was a on the ground infantryman.
Yep.
And Melbo was actually a
British military medic.
Yeah, medic. Yeah, but he worked closely a lot with the SAS actually.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
And he was in Helmand, and Ross, I can't remember where he was, but
he was in Sangin, was it?
Sangin, maybe. Yeah. So they've been there.
Okay, Katie, you go.
Someone asked why Vancouver was chosen for.
Sure. Katarn, who's one of the primary coders and has a lot of different roles. He lives in Seattle. Chuc now lives in Vancouver. I'm based in Vancouver. Our intent is for Merlin to come out to the West Coast. And also, British Columbia has very attractive tax rates for corporations.
Do we?
Yeah.
Huh.
They're really nice. Yeah.
Well, also Vancouver is there's a lot of tech stuff here and
totally.
Design and all that entire scene.
Yeah. The creative industry is much bigger here than there's other places.
I kind of scrolled to the bottom, so some people may have to ask because we weren't catching up to, to the live stuff.
Yeah.
What else we got here?
That was over being 1.5 by 1.5.
Sorry?
Lungar Valley is 1.5 by 1.5 kilometers.
Playable area, approximately, yep.
Would it be possible to build larger maps in the future?
Of course.
Yep, and in fact, one is in development.
In fact, that'll be the smallest map we ever build. I'm sure, well, yes.
Yes.
But no.
Will vehicles require all positions to be filled? It's pretty boring being the driver guy when the loader, commander, gunner have all the guns and you're just chilling out like what?
Hopefully there'll be a happy medium. But I can tell you the truth that I was IronTaxi. That's my nickname because I drove an APC and I didn't gun it. I had a gunner.
you gotta realize that as a driver, you are actually another pair of eyes.
Yeah, you're totally engaged.
Yeah, and often the survival of a tank crew means that every occupant needs to be looking everywhere all at once.
We may skip the ammo loader role.
Yeah, we might
like
skip
that,
the loader role.
Yeah, but the core essential roles, of course, we'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see here.
Anything, do it.
Will weapons feature realistic handling? The M249 Sol was extremely unrealistic in PR until you deployed a bipod. The M240 was extremely too easy.
I think all of those kind of statements are usually really, really subjective. And if you ask another 10 people, they'll give me another 10 answers.
And also relative, relative to more than not your standard assault rifle, because that's the weapon that you'll be using.
Right. Yeah, it's all relative to that
95% of the game.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to... The answer is we're going to test everything. Yeah. And find out what people like.
Someone's asking about the sound mods and the sounds so far in game.
What are they asking about them? Do they exist?
That's why I'm like...
There are sounds in the game. Like
the same guy who did all the beautiful PR sounds, Anders, is doing all the sounds for Squad. So if you like the sounds in PR, you're going to love the sounds of Squad. You're going to get the same quality in a new engine. Right now, the grenades and the UGL scare the balls off you. Like I literally, my heart was like, grenade goes off beside you. Yeah.
We mentioned Track AR briefly. I've seen a couple of questions about Oculus or VR support. Is something you're going to experiment with?
We talked about this recently.
We're going to experiment with it. Yeah. In fact, some of our dev team members do have their own kits. But again, it's something that's quite tangential to development.
And from our experience or our knowledge so far, they don't actually work very well in a first-person shooter. Because you've got to change the orientation of the head and various other things. And if you turn your head with the Oculus on, but the player head goes like this, that doesn't feel right. So we'd almost have to reinvent the animation system to do it really, really well.
Yeah, you can't just tack it on top of what you have. You almost have to redo stuff.
Great community project. If somebody's got that skill set, making a mod for the game to be able to use that, go for it. Be awesome.
Will there be any sort of character customization? Can I have a hat instead of a helmet? Can I be Asian instead of white? Any sort of customization for characters?
Can I be a girl?
You be a girl.
We have no girl soldiers right now, but that's a great community project for you, Katie.
Oh, God. Slats, get on that.
Yeah. The editor's free.
Actually, one thing we would like to one thing that we are lacking in is actual character modelers, and we were lucky in that we were actually able to strike a deal with another studio called Rocketbox, and they provide prepackaged solutions for games and simulations. So pre-rigged character models, soldiers, civilians, animals, whatever you want. And we were lucky in that we were able to do a trade. So some of my animations for some of their 3D
characters,
models.
Right? Yeah. So all of our characters minus all of them. All of them were done in a straight up trade for animations.
Yeah. So as you can see, that's why some of the soldiers have those MICH special forces helmets, and some don't. Because and that's purely because we hadn't had the time to actually customize them yet.
Yeah.
But down the road, we would love to bring on some very some talented character artists.
I could say confidently, if we get to the stage where we can be a standalone studio, it'll be one of the first things that gets started. Will be character models, and we'll go through a complete revision. It's such an investment and such a commitment right now. It's much smarter for us to get what we could for the time being.
Yeah. Right. And in all honesty, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with what we're using right now, and it serves to get the prototype up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
No point having the best character models if you don't have a working game around it, right?
Yeah. It's fairly irrelevant.
Yeah.
Will there be will the vehicles be physics-based, have damage models, so to say? Like, if I hit the rotor of a chopper, will it spin and crash? That kind of thing.
To a certain degree, yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely move into being able to track things, potentially take out tires. Potentially take out the engine, things like that.
Take out the engine.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. The Unreal Engine is so capable of that stuff.
Yeah.
I do love some of these questions.
Like?
I see a wall I don't like. In squad, can I blow this wall up? We talked about that earlier, but
I feel
signals for sneaky beaky tactics.
Well, actually, localized VoIP kind of makes hand signals kind of moot anyway.
Right.
Plus, the idea of hand signals is that they are very they're a trained thing, and like a certain signal to one person could mean something completely different to another, and for one that is actually another hard to develop part of the animation system that I would probably not rather get into at this point in time.
Yep, it'll be interesting once we get we're going to do probably some sort of radio menu if people play PR. Yeah. That'll probably facilitate looking at developing a lot of that stuff when we get to that point. So that'll be an extension of that.
Yeah.
Katie, you had something before I...
Yeah.
What?
I interrupted you. You were going to say something before.
I don't remember what it was. And actually, okay, so I've caused some controversy with my "Can I be a girl?" question, and someone said yes. There were 3 females that graduated Marine infantry training that graduated, did not wash out, graduated, and I wasn't talking about Rangers, Special Forces, anything like that, just infantry. Sure. And that wasn't allowed previously to be a grunt. As a female, you couldn't do it, right. So you couldn't even drive a tank for a while there. So,
right.
But yeah.
Also,
anyway.
I love how people always use that argument and refer it back to like a specific branch of the U.S. military, and a lot of these games are based on a lot of other.
The IDF, for example, has a very healthy female soldier population.
I always hear people saying, "Well, the U.S. whatever doesn't have." Blah. It's like, okay, but this game is not a U.S. Army simulator or whatever it is.
It's called conveniently cherry-picking your points to prove your point, right? Which we're all consciously aware is just a load of crap.
Great.
Vehicle-borne IEDs, yes, because...
that's PR's roots.
Yeah, they did work. Right?
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. Allah Akbar, boom.
Blue Drake is trolling me a little bit, I think.
You think?
A little bit. That's okay. I can take it.
Grenade sounds are awesome. That's not a question, but a statement.
I feel like a lot of these questions would be answered with some gameplay. So,
yeah,
a lot of people are asking,
a lot of these we've
will I see blood if I get hit? That kind of thing, and
well, I get hit, I die usually, so I've
a lot of the sort of wounding and suppression mechanics and stuff that haven't been put into the game yet. But,
Question about optics. Choose the optics. That's likely to be an optional thing. Yeah, there'll be various optics. We already have most of the optics in game in some capacity.
Yeah, the system for customization needs to be implemented, but it is it is on the design. It is concepted already here.
Yep, the assets are already there too. Yeah.
Suppression effects.
Katarn about Crisis.
Will you be suppressed? Will there be blur when suppressed?
We're not going to copy PR. That's for sure.
Not to that severity.
Suppression.
Not to that severity.
No. Yeah. There'll be something, but we're going to work through different indicators.
Yeah, we're going to go for, I guess, like a iterative solution where we start with one, and then if we think that it's not enough, then we add another layer to it and build it up, basically.
And you guys will see if we're playing some game now that there's a red indicator directing where the fire is coming from. That's not going to stay.
That'll be gone.
That's just our placeholder for testing.
Yeah.
Before we get to that point. Yeah, it gives you awareness, essentially.
All right, I'll let you guys just scan over these and see if there's any. So there was the suppress. Can I press F to pay respects to my fallen brothers?
Yes. Will be any type of ranking system? The short answer is no. Famous places in the world? Not necessarily. Will I see the blood? Yeah, that's an interesting discussion.
How long will shell casings and bodies remain on this battlefield?
We can tweak that as we develop.
Oh look, you got another vote for a female character.
It was
running gaming community.
It was only half serious. It wasn't even.
I mean,
but it would always be nice to have that, especially if you get a chance to customize a character in any way.
Yeah, to the point where I don't even want to discuss it because I know what a discussion it turns into. At this point. Yeah. And it's like there's two sides and they both may.
But it doesn't really bother me to not have one because games, ever since I've started gaming, have not had one. So, I mean, Counter-Strike, when I started, didn't have one. Duke didn't. I mean, it just wasn't. I mean, Quake had them, but.
It's funny, by the same token, could you be like, okay, why don't they have any short guys? What about the fat guys?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Should we have some 4'2" Mexican soldiers or like?
All right, who wants to see some actual gameplay?
I do.
I unplugged my drive earlier, and I also need to take a quick break. Unless you guys want to just
stop
chill
and
for a few minutes and just read that stuff while I.
Sure.
I'm going to take a quick break. Okay, so keep asking me stuff.
Could we hear cracking sound for supersonic bullets? Yes.
Yes.
How taxing is this game on computers right now? Not very.
No,
it's not that bad at all.
We're actually running on absolute maximum epic settings, and we can squeeze about maybe 35 to 40 FPS.
I can squeeze more than that.
Stable.
I can squeeze a stable 50 frames.
Yeah.
We're just going to let it scroll, and if you miss your question, then that's your fault for not having good timing.
Fast ropes has already been answered. Yes, maybe. There's a good modification for Acre called Babel, which travels in chatter into the server audio. That is a very sort of role play kind of question that it delves into.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. But again, it is the realm of our community to see that become a reality.
Yep, and we have talked about it actually.
Yeah.
Will this be a game where we can just jump in and play instead of unlocking? Absolutely.
Yes.
That is one of the tenets and the pillars of this game. Is the fact that you will be able to jump in and play and you won't need to unlock or pay for anything. A lot of people going for kills. Will you be limited in any mechanics to promote role team play? Yes. So the likelihood that you'll be able to see your kills in game is extremely low to zero.
Yeah, I mean, the kill confirmation already in PR is quite limited. Like, aside from visual confirmation, where you actually look through your optic or pair of binoculars and see that the person is dead. Aside from that, there's very little indication. There is the scoreboard and all that, but I think we are thinking of circumventing that.
Yeah.
For squad. That's about it.
Okay. How realistic are the optics in the game? Do they take up the whole screen? Actually, we're actually in development for that stuff right now.
Yeah.
And right now we've got a pretty realistic implementation, but it's going to have some hardware limits that we're working through.
Yeah.
So if we can find a happy medium where it doesn't destroy the frame rate, we'll make it as realistic as we possibly can.
Yep.
Yeah. We like that stuff, so.
Wow, the chat is going all over the place. Free look is something that we will also want to implement as well. But again, it is a development item that's fairly low down.
Can you identify yourself map easily without doing the wiggle? That's pretty funny. I did the wiggle today, so no.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
We will definitely work on that.
Dancing animations, yes, already in game. Didn't you see the green light final post?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That thing.
The difference between deviation from Battlefield 2 PR. Oh, you can talk about deviation.
What will be the difference?
Between deviation?
Well, there is no deviation because your bullet basically goes from your barrel of your weapon. So to combat that, we actually have sway elements now. So like sway would actually be connected to your own soldier stamina and also whether you are in a supported position or not. And yeah, generally Sway is going to be replacing the old deviation.
Not replacing it. We don't even have deviation.
Yeah.
We're not even going to implement it.
Yeah, mechanically.
Spiritually replacing.
Yeah, spiritually replacing. Yeah. The idea behind deviation was to actually reduce, snap shooting and prolong firefights to a point where team play becomes a lot more important than getting the first kill immediately. Yeah.
Just looking.
But it doesn't stop, does it?
No. Yeah, realistic 3D optics. Yes, 95%, unless something fails. Self-updating launcher, very naturally. It'll be via Steam, most likely.
A bit louder.
Sorry.
Vehicle interiors are something that we again need to investigate as well. I know at least for open air vehicles like the Humvee, for example.
Yeah, we have to do
it, or else it will look really, really weird. I know for one that I am excited to animate things like reloading the M250 cal or doing things like entering or exiting your vehicle. But again, the way that we designed it is gonna. It will be a compromise in the end.
Especially the short term initially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Vertical recoil managed seems a bit exaggerated. Yeah, I would say anything you're going to see gameplay-wise right now, there's a good chance it's going to change.
We need to tweak it.
And we're just tweaking. We actually started way, way, way higher, and we've been tweaking it down progressively.
Yeah.
Arms and hands on vehicles, ladders. Arms?
Yeah, that's all possible because we have a true first-person system where
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, where what you see in third person is the same as what you see in first person. So one cool side effect of that is that, say, if you're being dragged by a medic or another player, for example, you could conceivably see your legs, as you're being dragged from behind.
You might even be able to look around and see yourself being dragged.
See yourself being dragged along.
Vehicle like Chinook being shot with a larger caliber round, killing soldiers that it hits, potentially. That's really down the road.
Oh, you mean like
penetration values?
Oh, yeah. Okay. There will not be a third-person view when you're in the vehicles.
Nope. Yeah, definitely not. Special server license.
Whoa, vehicles? Did you answer the manual transmission question?
Hold on, Peter. I know you need.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm reading. Special server license initially. Definitely in the beginning. We'll be very conscious of controlling, the servers and who are the servers and things like that. The reality is we may have less control over it long term, but motors, yes. Go ahead.
Manual transmission. We actually.
That'd be awesome.
We had a few prototypes actually that did have manual transmission. They were fun to play as.
Yeah.
But yeah. Again, another sort of development item once we get heavily into vehicles.
Update on the Epic grant. We're in the process of actually applying, and that'll be taking place in the next week or two.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of other things with like Greenlight and stuff like that, but it's definitely on our list.
Developers ensure good quality gameplay. That really comes down to server admins, and also how we manage our own and how we manage the community and what kind of culture we foster with Squad. Yeah.
Can I pull the pin of a grenade and switch to the main weapon without throwing the nade, like in many games? No. I'm not sure.
You could conceivably put the pin back in, and but the
answer is we don't know. But I get what you're saying.
I think once you get to that stage, you should have thought about that before you pulled the pin.
Maybe, yeah.
Probably a good point.
Ways to taunt the enemy, nothing planned, unless it's an IED. That taunts enemies.
No. I mean, we were also toying with the idea of having like a scream voice function.
Ooh, I like these questions. See, the question where they're asking me what my opinion is, like, where was that?
Give me a scroll?
No, hold on.
Was it?
What factions would you personally like to see added next? Me personally, I'm all about some militias and some asymmetry and some weird weapons and like just let the organic gameplay fly?
I'm in.
Go ahead.
I'm in favor of actually the PLA, the Chinese, because there's some very interesting kit, and no bias because I'm also Chinese, but
He's biased.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like they do present like a really interesting point of difference between the Western militaries.
Yeah. Yep. I think we're actually getting them to slow down now. Pow? No.
Okay, can you drag anybody so they can't revive them?
Never thought of that.
That's a good idea, actually.
Why don't you just curb stomp them instead?
Yeah, just
Like Dying Light, you just stomp on their head and put them out of their misery.
punch them.
By the way, Dying Light, a great game. You guys should buy it and play it. It's like the sleeper hit of the year as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, he likes Dying Light.
Yeah.
I do too.
Someone asked
Go ahead.
Oh, yep. That was the question I was going to ask. What is currently in the development pipeline that you're excited about?
Deployables.
For me, deployables. This is going to be our next phase. Is going to be the real implementation of the bases and the deployables, and I think that's, as many people would understand, it's actually one of the key differentiators as well. So once we're able to actually show that stuff off, we've implemented it in a basic implementation. Does that make sense? But once we get it really executed, it's going to be super exciting. Yeah.
With the question by a Paper Lion, will you walk around with your weapon pre-aimed all the time, or you'll be able to raise and lower your armor? If we're going to implement a feature like that, it will have to be something that's toggleable and optional, because
right, because not everybody wants
we
it.
Can't quite find a place for it within our style game.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, it comes back to that scope of people who want to play the game. Can we find ways to make both people happy?
Yeah.
If it's toggleable, yeah. If you don't want to have it down, then you can have it down.
We will try to work in role-playing features further down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like in PR where just for the hell of it, we actually came up with an unarmed kit, and then you could do things like raise your hands or salute. Or
that's a really interesting one, Chuck. Can you kill wounded enemy that's on the ground?
Yeah, no, that's something that.
Yeah. So how do you make the players make that decision rather than just make it in a game? Like, you know what I mean? You're actually killing somebody who's wounded, rather than this is good for gameplay to kill this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We'll put that to the dev team.
I don't know. Maybe if we put on some blood curdling screams.
I don't know. It's like strange. Are you guys Illuminati?
Yes.
Who is that? Dory? Okay, you're gonna
picked a really bad time to.
We'll find you, Dory.
Battle sites, ACOG with red dot site for CQB situations. If it is used by that particular faction,
yes,
then yes. Case in point, maybe like the British are known to use ACOGs with red dot sites on them, and if and when we do implement a British faction, then we will try to reflect that within our game.
Will Squad have a ticket system in AS? Yes.
Yes, for now, that's what we have. Yeah.
Right, for now. And you may see other stuff later. You will.
Yeah. Jungle maps?
I freaking hope so.
I
started it in PR about 4 or 5 years ago, and it never got executed. So it's definitely on my backlog of to-do.
No quick knife option, and
no.
BUIS for scoped weapons. Perhaps, but actually yes, but they're not a priority item.
Okay, updates on the insurgency game mode. Right now, it's only AS. But obviously,
right
we planned a bunch of different modes. Yeah.
Yep. PMCs, they are a faction. They are a faction, but we can't really say yes or no to that.
What is that? Military contractors.
Yeah, military contractors.
That'd be cool. No plan.
Yeah, no plan for that.
I'm not going to explain to you how base building will work piece by piece, because we've only done the first implementation and we're just going to move into the second iteration. But I would say that you're going to know that within a month or two. You'll have a pretty good idea. You guys will see it in videos and stuff pretty quick for here.
Food truck burgers?
Sorry, Mutra burgers?
Food truck
burgers.
What?
I don't know.
They do taste good.
Yeah, I guess people want snacks in the game. Like
Scuba diving, no. Don't ask
Scuba diving
questions. Food truck burgers, why? What?
Okay, I think we should probably see what it's like in game.